Alright, so what I did was I went ahead and did the turned and stitched edge finish along both the top and bottom edges of my soon-to-be ruffle here. Now what I want to do is I want to come back and I need to place a row of stitching just to, I would need to put a row of stitching 1/8 of an inch to the right and 1/8 of an inch to the left of that center line that I stitched on. So what I'm doing is I'm finding out where I can use my guide, and if I keep my needle in the center position, then it sits about at 1/4 of an inch away from the presser foot edge. So what I'm going to do is, in order to place my row of stitching on the right side, or towards the inside of this center line that I drew, I'm going to run my presser foot, the left side of my presser foot, along that center line. Now we're going to be doing a row of basting stitches, so we need to lengthen up our stitch length to as far as it'll go. So turn your stitch length knob to 4. And then we're not doing any back stitches or anything along here, and we're just going to put that row of basting stitches all the way down the center of the sample, or to the right of the center, and then we're going to flip our fabric over and do to the left of the center here. Alright, and when I get to the end, I want to make sure that I have some long thread tails to pull later. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to do the exact same thing, going on the opposite side of my center line that was sketched. So since I flipped my fabric around and I'm going on the other direction, I flipped everything around from top to bottom, I can still run my my presser foot, the left side of my presser foot, along this this center line that I had sketched on there. And again, I'm not doing any back stitching. I want to make sure that I can use those thread tails as guides later. So what I'm looking at while I'm stitching here is I'm watching that center line that I had, rubbed on with my pencil. I'm just watching that glide along the left side of my presser foot. And when I get to the end, I'm going to raise up my needle and presser foot and make sure that I have some long tails. Alright, now what I'm going to do is I want to evenly gather these up. So again, I'm going to be pulling on my bobbin threads only for both for each of the 2 basting stitches that I did, and I'm just going to go ahead and give those a pull and kind of evenly distribute those along one edge, and then I'm going to come back and grab my other bobbin threads. Mine are maroon in this case, and then I'm just going to go ahead and pull them and try to gather them up and even them along. Now we want to distribute these gathers until our sample is 8 inches long. So we want to shorten it up so it's about 1/3 of the space. Now I'm at about 12 inches, so I need to go a little bit more. I laid my ruler out in front of me so I can just kind of have an eye to guide, and then I can always come back and shorten them up on both sides here. And I'm just trying to evenly distribute them, and I'm going to go ahead and do a quick measure with my ruler that I have set here. Let's see, I'm about at 9, so 1 more inch to go. Just a quick cinch in, and then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to put that pin in up and down, and I'm going to figure 8 all of those thread tails. Just to hold all of them in place so that they don't move around too much. Okay, that should probably do it. And then push those to the side. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that down on top of my ruler again, see how I'm looking. And I'm measuring from not the tops and bottoms, not the top and bottom of the ruffle. I want to measure right here in the center. So I'm just going to gently press that down, and it looks like I'm right at about 8 inches. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put another pin just right along the edge of that, of the raw edge of that fabric there. Then I'm going to figure 8 these thread tails, because I now know that at least between the distance between all the ruffles is 8 inches, which is what I'm shooting for, and then I can come back in and kind of evenly distribute the ruffle. I'm just going to figure 8 around there, and then I'm going to use my thumb and forefingers to just evenly distribute this this ruffle along my basting lines. I think I have a little bit more ruffle on my left side than I did on my right, so I'm going to just try to evenly distribute that, you know, as nicely as I can. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our sample, and we are going to place it along the, let me see here, we want to place it along that center line that we had marked down. I'm going to place it along the long ways of it, so along the 10-inch, because I think that's where it kind of matches up the best. I'm going to have about 1 inch on one side and 1 inch on the other. And what I want to do is I want to place, I'm just going to center up the center line of this ruffle to go right along that center line that's on my my sample on the back. And what I might need to do is I might need to lift it up and line up that center stitch line, and then put a pin down where I had placed it, and then come back and do it again. I'm looking underneath. Underneath. I can see my rub straight line there, and I'm just lining it up straight with that the rub lines on both the under fabric and my top ruffle that I made, and I'm just lining that up, matching up those centered sketch lines as I go, and pinning them in place once I have them. And then what I'm going to do when I get this all matched up is I'm going to do a top stitch and attach this double ruffle to the under fabric. Okay. Alright, now this edge matched up almost even with the bottom of my fabric, and I don't want this to be kind of disproportioned, so I'm going to see if I can just gently adjust my my pins here to shift down a little bit, and then I can adjust my ruffles as well. Oh, and it looks like my figure 8 came out of my my tails, which might be for a reason why things got a little distorted, but it's not too bad. I just want to make sure that my ruffles are evenly distributed here. You can see that things look like they're matching up fairly well, and I just want to make sure that you know, I'm getting the same amount of ruffle and fullness along the top as I am along the bottom. So if you need to kind of adjust how your ruffles are setting before you go ahead and top stitch them into place, I would suggest doing that. Alright, now as you can see, like my kind of my ruffle edges are coming up and out of, extending beyond the piece, which is completely fine. Alright, and finally what we're going to do is we're going to just stitch right down that center line, and I can see my center line that I have sketched here. So if you can't see the center line that you have marked there, then you might just want to redraw that real quick, and then you're going to want to do some back stitching to start. Now I just did my back stitching, but I also noticed that my stitch lengths were really long, so you want to make sure that you shorten up that